Look at all these buildings here that I'm surrounded by. There are thousands of people working in them every day. And you know, if you work in one of these buildings for 40 years, you'll spend over 80,000 hours of your life working, roughly a third of your life. And you know, in some of these buildings, there's Christians working every single day. And the question we want to ask is, does that make any difference? What difference does it make that you're a Christian in the workplace? Well, that's exactly what this book and this series of Bible studies is going to help you think about. What does it look like to be a Christian in the workplace? So in order to start to answer that question, one of the most important things to think through is, where is your place in that story? Where do you fit in with what God is doing throughout the story of the Bible? You know, a lot of people think that work is actually a product of the fall, that we wouldn't have to work if Adam and Eve had never sinned in the garden. That's actually not true. What the Bible says is that in the beginning, God created Adam and Eve to work. Upon creating them, He gave them work to do. Now, their work in the garden, because the garden was perfect, was to pick up the bountiful blessings that God provided. Of course, Adam and Eve rebelled against God. They sinned against Him, and in doing so, God cursed their work. He not only cursed the ground that they worked, but also created frustration in the process of work. And that's really where we find ourselves in the story. We see that we are in a world that's cursed. We see that work is hard. It's frustrating. But you know what? The good news of the gospel is that God sent Christ to come and die for a people, to redeem a people for Himself. And He cares immensely what we do as redeemed people. And our jobs are one of the primary ways that God intends to make us more like Christ. In Colossians 3, Paul writes, "Whatever you do, do it with all your heart as working unto the Lord, not for men." And that verse is really where we get one of the major themes for this entire book. And that theme is that who you work for is more important than what you do. It's because we work for King Jesus that our work has meaning, purpose, and value. Of course, we have a hard time believing that we truly do work for a king, and therefore we have a hard time living every day in the workplace as though we do. And there's really two challenges that come into our workplaces that are really deadly misunderstandings of what God has for us on our work. On the one hand, we can make work an idol, I-D-O-L. And this is when we elevate work to the most important or primary part of our life. It's the thing that our life is organized around, the thing we care most about. That's what it is to make work an idol. On the other hand, the other misunderstanding is we can be idle at work, I-D-L-E. We cannot care enough about our work. We cannot understand what God's purposes are for us in our work. We can think that our jobs are mundane, they don't matter, and so we don't care about them. Well, both of these are deadly misunderstandings. Either making work an idol, raising it above Christ, or being idle at work, not caring enough, not understanding that we truly work for a king. And what this book is going to do is, if you are making work an idol, we want you to see your job in light of the gospel so that you start to see that King Jesus is actually the primary person to organize your life around, and that He then gives you your work as a meaningful part of following Him. And if you're here and you are being idle at work, not caring enough about it, we want you to see that if you truly work for the King, then you would never consider your job something you can be idle at. But it's actually a meaningful place where God has you and wants you to be. It's an assignment that He's given you. You know, I have to say, this has certainly been a lifelong struggle of mine. And I'll say, honestly, both of these kind of happen simultaneously sometimes within me. There's often times where work is all I can think about. It's the only thing I really care about. There's other times where I'm just like, I don't really care about what I'm doing, and I don't really think it matters to God. And so I go about my work in a way that doesn't look any different than anybody else. So I can really empathize with you. And so part of why we've written this book is to hopefully help share with you some of the questions we've had and some of the thoughts we've had on this very topic, so that your mind can be renewed, so that your hearts can be changed, and so that your lives can look different. We believe that the gospel changes everything, and that includes your work. And so we hope that as you begin this study of thinking about the gospel at work, you'll come to understand how King Jesus brings purpose and meaning even to your jobs.